Good morning, good people of a great nation. It's a pleasure to bring you another fresh edition of the second discussion segment of Development Focus with Jide on ITV. My colleagues Dominic just walk us through the road safety Ember Months campaigns, and this is another campaign we are going to be having in a bit, and that is about the NIMET Nigeria Meteorological Agency rainfall prediction for 2022. This report was released in February 2022, but not much attention was paid to it. But now the rainy seasons are here. The rainy season is here, and it's been causing a lot of damage across the country and across the globe. You possibly heard about the flooding that took place in Pakistan and the devastating damage it has caused. So we have agencies of government that release seasonal rainfall predictions and tell us where to expect flooding and all of that. So what do? Do we just hear these predictions and then just shrug it off? So I brought somebody who works in the area of environment. He's an executive director of an NGO. He'll be telling us more about that NGO in a bit. But it's somebody I've known from time past when he was an election guru, but now he has decided to diversify into environmental advocacy. But they're all interlinked one way or the other, because you cannot have a very successful elections when the environment. I mean, we even talk of political environment, don't we? So Olushola Babalola is here with me. He will be telling us what his organization has been doing about the NIMET predictions and all of that. Shola, you're welcome.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Nigerians, and thank you for having me on your show.
So, you are Executive Director of Center for
Environmental Sustainability and Development Awareness.
Yeah, says that.
Known as
Yeah, says that. Center for Environmental Sustainability and Development Center. So, so you know about this NIMET prediction. Walk us through what exactly is that seasonal rainfall prediction for 2022. What did they tell us? What was the forecast?
Okay, thank you very much. First, I think we need to commend NIMET for timely release of the report. This report came in early February, just like you said, and this will give every stakeholder the opportunity to plan well ahead of time with regards to flooding predictions in Nigeria. So the NIMET report is what they call a seasonal, seasonal prediction, seasonal climate prediction, SCP. So, and the whole essence of this is to be able to mitigate, flooding, and again to be able to respond, effectively and efficiently, to flooding. So, and that's the more reason why, they deem it fit to release the report well ahead of time, so that people can actually, prepare. People can actually prepare in terms of trying to see how they can strengthen mitigation. So, flood is something that we cannot escape. It will always come year in, year out, but we can mitigate them if we put a very good measure in place, if you put a very good adaptive mechanism in place, if you put a very good other safety mechanism in place to ensure that when the flood eventually comes, it doesn't cause much more damage to the society. And when we're talking in terms of deluge of flooding, it's not about human being alone, because what we are trying to say here is that how do we save life when there is flooding? How do we save property? Then how do we save infrastructures too? Because we've seen, just like you said, in Pakistan, we've seen what flood has done. Not even in Pakistan, in Nigeria. Close to 2 months ago, we saw what happened in the Lugbe estate, that particular estate.
Around the Sun City axis.
So at the Sun City axis. So we saw what happened. Lives were lost.
Even in Jigawa, there have been reported cases of flooding.
Were lost and all sort of things. So we can't continue to fold our hands and see this happening. year in, year out. And that's the more reason why, NIMET actually came up with this report. And they've done a very good job by sending, advisory letters, to states that are involved. According to them, 32 states will be involved in flooding this year, and 233 local government. That is huge. That's about almost a third, of 774 local governments in Nigeria. So we need to, plan ahead of time. We need to act fastly. We need to see how we can quickly mitigate, this issue. So it's like a stitch in time that saves lives. So it's a welcome idea, and we really appreciate that.
Yeah, a stitch in time saves life, but that's if that stitch you see that, because I recall that there was some years ago the Lokoja, that River Niger overhead bridge was flooded some years ago. I recall trying to, I was traveling about that time. It was impassable. The water level rose.
The entire
plain was flooded. The River Niger bridge that you have to cross to enter into Lokoja Township, that entire axis was flooded. And we have had our worst flooding in 2012 or thereabout in Nigeria. But you are a climate change expert. What causes all of this sudden rise in water level and all of that? Can you walk us through that?
The reason is not far-fetched, just like you talk about climate change. And it seems that the awareness is not much in Nigeria. So
it isn't. People will tell you. Yeah. I think the next viewpoint that we will do will be on this issue of how do people even understand climate change in Nigeria? Do they even know what climate change? What are the implications and all of that? Well, like you rightly said, climate change has contributed a lot, to some of these disasters that we are seeing. Flooding is one of them. And one of the reasons why we are experiencing this kind of a thing is because of our attitudinal approach, to things. There are so many things, that we don't do before now that we are doing. Like, take for example, urbanization has really impacted on, some of these, affects that are happening in terms of flood, in terms of, other. Yeah, we've got deforestation.
So deforestation is part
because
of
urbanization.
Because of urbanization and water, and oftentimes because of the fact that the government of the day don't really plan ahead of time in terms of urbanization. People are moving, from rural area to the centers now, looking for means of livelihood, and there are no adequate, provision for them. So when you look at infrastructures too, you see that even in Abuja where we are, people build discriminately. People build on sewage ways, just like you said. We talk about deforestation, and nobody is talking about afforestation. So, and that's the reason why people are saying if you cut one tree, you plant another one.
You plant two to even replace that one.
And we are not doing that. These are part of effect of greenhouse, as a result of depletion of ozone layer. So these are part of the things that actually cause, when it rains, there is bound to be flooding. So, but like you rightly said, we don't have much of climate education in Nigeria, and that is the reason why we should see the issue of climate change as everybody's business, just like security. Nobody is left, behind. The stakeholders, the community, the duty bearers, generally. We are talking about individuals, we are talking about government agencies, we are talking about civil society organizations. The media, equally have a role to play, just like what we are doing now, trying to create awareness around flooding. So also there is need, for us to create such awareness around climate change as well, in schools, in homes, if possible in religious houses. So this will actually help us and help, the entire citizenry to have a full grasp of what climate change is all about.
Yeah, thank you. And you see, people talk about ozone layer depletion and all of that. What actually, apart from deforestation, because they will tell you that, okay, the forest, the photosynthesis help in production of oxygen and absorption of carbon monoxide and all of that. But what effect has technology brought to bear on the issue of climate change?
So I was about saying that, you know, negatively, technology has impacted in the area of climate change as well, because we know there are quite a lot of space launches where people, you know, going to space, see what is actually going on, you know, in the space. Now, Elon Musk, you know, has an hotel in Mars now. So, and we begin to think of the implication of that. So when you begin to deplete, you know, the ozone layers, because what they have been able to do is to, you know, come up with a technology that can actually penetrate through, you know, the Earth crust and move, you know, to the next planet. And all these, you know, has implication. As little as our telecommunication, you know, technology, they equally have implication on the entire environment. So
even the issue of you know, pollution,
yeah,
the exhaust from glass, industrial waste,
yeah,
gas flaring,
yes,
all of these have also been linked to depletion of ozone layer, because some of these industrial waste are actually inimical to human health,
yeah,
and you know, all these our generator, yeah, exhaust, and then of course you know that many corporations who have giant generations with high emission level,
yeah,
and we are still doing gas flaring
in Nigeria.
Over 60 years into oil exploration. So now we know what the causes of ozone layer depletion and technology has impacted negatively. Attitude, our attitude, yeah, when people cut down trees in those government reserves, they call it, it's not only GRA that we have reserves, there are also forest reserves. I think people need to know that there are some forests that are reserves that you are not supposed to go cut tree without planting back. But now we are where we are. There is rise in water level. Yeah. There is drought in some parts of the world. In fact, I saw a footage last week where they are shooting chemicals into the air in China in order to generate rain, because there are no rains. Yeah. But there are floods in Nigeria, in Pakistan, and some other parts. So now, with this rise in water level and this prediction of flooding, let's calibrate. First, before we even look at the solution, what are the impact of this ozone layer depletion, rise in water level? What impact can we say this is having on human, animal, and generally on society?
Yeah, just like you said it, and we look at the health implication of that. You know, over years, you know, we've seen, you know, people getting sick simply because of this lackadaisical attitude, you know, in the society. It's not limited to Nigeria, it's a global issue, just like we said. At a point in time, people were tend to link the increase in the cases of cancer and some other, you know, and some other
okay, we need to take a quick break to pay for commercials. Pave way for commercials. Thank you very much. Welcome back from that short commercial break. So, Shola, we were discussing...
So as a result of rise in the ocean level...
Yeah, the impact of...
so we've seen cities being washed away. We've seen people losing their means of livelihood. You know, and
farmlands.
Yeah, farmlands. You know, so
animals.
And what have you. So this is a very great concern.
In fact, sorry to pause here. There was a very sad story I read. Was it yesterday or 2 days ago? This week, where I think somewhere in Jigawa or one of the northern states, a man was trying to save the animal and got drowned. Oh. The animal survived. He didn't survive, but he was trying to save the animal from being washed away by flood. And in the process, he lost his life. It happened just this week.
So that's so pathetic. And in the process too, we've seen infrastructures being lost, you know, to flood, and this is going to be an additional expenditure on the part of government too, because they need to put, you know, the cities back in shape. So what we can do, you know, in order to prevent this, to mitigate some of
even before we get to the solution, does this have to do with the increasing rate of building collapse that we have been experiencing? Just in the last 7 days, we've had a building coming down in Kubwa, then in Kano, then in Lagos. In fact, the Lagos one, about 6 people have been pulled out dead, and the commissioner for physical planning in Lagos allegedly have resigned as a result of that. Does this have to do with flooding or with, you know, issue of climate change and all of that?
Yeah, it can. Yes, it has to do with flooding, you know, as well. Flooding in the sense that 2 things we need to consider. One, there are quite a lot of laxity on the part of government, most especially those that are saddled with responsibility of urban planning. So we have seen people, you know, bribing their ways, you know, to put structure, you know, put structure illegally where they are not supposed to put, on sewage ways, on waterways. So this is not done anywhere. So if we want to prevent such hazard, we shouldn't do that. So that is one aspect of it. Then again, as individual, so like we rightly said from the beginning of this program, we talk about the fact that, you know, environment issues is everybody's issue. So there are some certain mitigations we need to put in place, you know, to prevent, you know, fraud as well. So, and just like you said, in as much as there is a continuous rise in the water level, so we continue to, you know, see things like this. This is part of the negative impact of climate change, you know, has been experienced in the society. So it's inevitable. So we just have to change our attitude. We just have to put a good mitigation plan in place so that we can forestall, you know, such occurrences in the future. So that is not far from climate change as well, just like you said.
Okay, so let's now get to the solutions. We've seen the impact of climate change, rising water level, flooding. NIMET has done us well by telling us exactly where we should expect the flooding to take place. How many of us even listen to weather reports? Is that not supposed to guide us in our daily movement? Yeah. And we have a number of media houses that are taking weather reports, but do we actually?
It's gone at the days, because I remember growing up on radio.
Yeah.
They do dish out reports like that, and we are always eager to listen to what's going to happen in terms of climate, in terms of
weather situation throughout the
day, and all sort of. So. Yes, like you rightly said, people are preoccupied with some certain things, you know, differently from that. They don't even consider it as very important, you know, just like you hardly see people listening to such, you know, information. They would rather listen to entertainment or watch entertainment programs.
Or sports.
Or sports.
Well, sport is part of entertainment anyway.
So I think it's something we need to call our attention back to. It's very, very important, you know, for people to listen, you know, to weather forecast. You know, those in Europe, in America, don't joke with it. They don't
joke with it. I mean, before you set out, you are already listening to weatherman, whether there will be rain, whether there will be sunshine, and all of that. So you know whether to take your umbrella with you
or whatever. With their little phone, they try as much as possible to put, you know, the weather forecast, weather forecast to you know, probably alert them if there is any change in weather. And these are the little things we can change we can do as individuals too. We all have phones. We can do it. I do it. It's on my phone. I can tell you categorically the weather forecast for Nigeria today, especially in Abuja. So I can quickly look at my phone, you know, and tell you, you know, if it's going to rain or not, the amount of rainfall that we are going to have. These are simple things that we need to do. So then moving from that, there is need for a very serious sensitization. That is the first thing that we need to consider. So we need to sensitize ourselves. So, and we shouldn't leave this in the hand of government alone. You know, just like I said, you know, in the schools, you know, at homes, we need to really, you know, appreciate the fact that NIMET has come with their report. Then the next thing for us is to, what is the report all about? Then how do we, plan against, flooding at the end of the day? So sensitization is very, very important. Then on the part of government too, aside being reactionary to issue, there are plans, there are mechanisms they're supposed to put in place. Take for example, in China, there's something they call sponge city. The whole essence of this is to trap, the amount of rain, that fall in some certain cities, designated cities. So the whole essence of this is to, okay, we are not going to do a concrete floor, so we are going to do a steep floor, whereby it will prevent, the flood from moving quick. That's another way to stem the tide of flood, And there are other things like doing a green roof, what they call a green roof. When you construct a green roof, you put a garden, on your roof, so that you can prevent the amount of, rain that will drop on the ground. So people have constructed dams too.
Dams.
We are expecting, so we are expecting, Nigeria to do. Yes, we have our dams. Some of them, they are as old as 60 years, some 50 years. We don't even considering, expanding some of them.
And what about maintenance of these dams?
And maintenance of these dams. So because Nigeria does not like, relevant agencies to do this work, but oftentimes, just like we said, maintenance is one aspect of it. Then the lackadaisical attitude of government, because government needs to be very responsive and responsible when it comes to issues like this, and which we have not, really seen much of that happening. Then individually too, we need to put mitigation mechanism in place. Try to clear, the sewage waste. Try to clear the gutters around our house. Then, just like we said, we need to plant trees, in our community, and all this will prevent, even when it rains, for the fact that we have, a plantation around, the houses, that we, in a way, try to retain some of the rainfall that drops on the ground. So these are part of the mitigations that we can, put in place to, to forestall flooding.
Thank you, Shola. Again, let's do the drill down on role of citizen. I think you spoke, about the sensitization. But do people even know the nexus between taking care of their environment and prevention of diseases, like waterborne diseases, like even malaria, typhoid, and all of that? That when they take care of their environment, they weed, because it's not just clearing the drainage. When you have overgrown surroundings, this serves as very good place for mosquitoes to breed. And just last month, federal government of Nigeria have to institute National Council of Malaria, headed by Aliko Dangote, the richest man in Africa. So the role of citizen, what should citizens be doing? The roads are usually washed away at this season because of intense rainfall. Should we be waiting on government to come fix those roads? In terms of weeding our environment, in terms of clearing the drainage, who should be doing that?
I think it's just like you said, it's a multi approach to it. Yes, government have their roles to play, so also the citizen. So as little as clearing the drainages, I don't think we should leave that in the hands of government alone. Then again, in terms of our attitude, because a little rainfall like this, I've seen where people dump their refuse on the drainage.
Exactly. People just bring that on the gutters, not even canals. Canals are big. You talk of just 10 minutes rain, and then people are bringing their refuse and dumping it in waterways.
So that's a no-no. For me, these are part of the things that we really need to enlighten ourselves as individuals. We don't do it because it has a ripple effect at the end of the day. You might think you are dumping, that refuse and the drainages that passes through your place, but other people are doing it. There are some other, places, far, before your own that are doing the same thing. Who knows? Maybe it will get stuck, when you get to your place. So it's very, very important that we try as much as possible to clear, the drainages. And just like you said, we need to do the weeding, and we need to conscientize ourselves. We don't need government to tell us this. It's not good. dumping refugees, littering, the streets, especially with plastic materials
which are not biodegradable.
Yeah, which are not biodegradable. So these are kind of things that we need to refrain from doing. And less we do this, and less impact of flooding, we are going to record at the end of the day. So we really, really need to do that.
So what should we be tasking the media to do now?
Yeah,
does
I
media
think
have
they are
any
doing
role?
a very good job here now, because by pushing this out, quite a lot of people have been enlightened with regards to flooding, with regards to climate change, with regards to what is expected of them as a citizen, as a community. So the media should continue to push this in the front burner, so that people will get to know the implication of some of their attitude, and in the implication of climate change.
And civil society organizations like your own, lastly.
Yeah, civil society organization will continue to engage the process. We continue to engage the stakeholder. We continue to speak through to the authority. Then our own enclave, we continue to dish out, sensitization, try to...
Okay, we are due for another break, and we'll be back in a bit to round up. Thank you very much for staying tuned to Independent Television, ITV Abuja. So, your last words, as we round up, what exactly should government, because government needs to lead the pack. Yeah. We have also agencies of government like Abuja Environmental Protection Board and several others across the state. We have Ministry of Environment. Yeah. So when you say government, yeah, let's calibrate it. What should each of these be doing?
I think the first thing we should be considering about is to see how we can activate the emergency centers. This is very important. Yeah. And for NEMA, this rests on their shoulder.
Yeah, so, they likely people that will be affected by
so they are the one that superintend over this. Then for the Ministry of Environment, I think they are the coordinating agency, so they need to come up with a good plan as to how they can synergize with some sister agencies, especially the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian and Disaster. So they are in the loop as well. They should begin to see how they can activate, their structure in terms of bringing succor, to the likely affected people. So Minister of Water Resources, they have a role to play too. The dams, some of them have been overfilled, so they should be thinking of how they can probably bring about a floodgate to see how they can control their dams. So that's very important. Then for Abuja Environmental Protection Agency, I know the states, the 36 states to have their own version of Abuja.
Environmental protection boards.
Yeah, so some they call State Emergency Protection Management Board. So they need to synergize with the people in the state, with the federal level, synergize with the people in the state, and see how they can bring about the right sensitization. This is the time for them to go back to the field. So they need to go back to the field.
This is not the time to stay in the offices. Go to field and do some evangelism there. Use environmental evangelism.
Use some extension, workers, officers,
exactly
to push out this information to people.
Even the Ministry of Agri, planting, afforestation, and all of that. Anyway, I want to thank you.
We should equally hope for the best, but we plan for the worst.
Oh, plan for the worst, hope for the best. Take care of your environment. Let's save the environment. Let's save ourselves from flooding, and let's drive carefully. If you are a motorist, this rainy season, you may not be able to see well. There are usually traffic congestion. Please, let's be careful. Thank you very much, Olushola Babalola, the Executive Director of CESDA, for coming on board to sensitize Nigerians, government, and other duty bearers on what we can do to prevent lamentation on flooding. We need to do the needful if you want to save ourselves from agony. Let's save the environment to save us. Thank you very much. We hope when next we call you, you oblige us. Do have a great day. So we'll be back in a bit to take us through the newspapers. Please stay tuned.